This is a video update for the group that owns Shanroe Cooley. Well guys, Dallas has been up in Pennsylvania for a couple of weeks since we finished our winter circuit down there in Aiken, South Carolina. After the Bruce's Field Grand Prix eventing, he actually shipped back home a day or two after that. So we've had, I think, nearly 2.5 weeks up in Pennsylvania, which has been good. Been sort of reunited with Silver and back galloping up the hills, which is nice. And then on Wednesday of last week, we travelled him back down to North Carolina to the mighty Carolina International. This was a 4-star short, so his first proper run of the year. Obviously, the Bruce's Field Grand Prix eventing was quite challenging, but this was sort of the real deal sort of event. The only problem, which I thought wasn't going to be a problem, but it ended up being a problem, was the dressage was exactly the same dressage as Bruce's Field, the 4-star C test, which he did a pretty good job at Bruce's Field. But then, if you remember, we had that mishap in the trot, so I've been working madly at that. Unfortunately, Dallas sort of knows where the flying changes are, and I'd say I've made the mistake a little bit of just rehearsing and practicing these changes, and you'll see in this one he sort of anticipates it and then hops through, which is disappointing, just because he's been getting the flying changes over and over and over at home perfect. So I've had Silver schooling him a bit, and then she's been sticking me on, and to be quite honest, the flying changes are getting better and better and better and more consistent. The problem, I think, is he's sort of got a bit of anxiety, and this one was a disaster. So it's unfortunately it was a expensive mistake, because there's a mark here for the counter canter, and he switched leads on me. So I would have got a 2 for the counter canter, and then the flying change is supposed to be at A there, and obviously that was non-existent. So it's sort of 20 marks in that small turn, and it was quite disappointing, just because we'd been getting them over and over and over and over again at home, and I really thought this was going to be our first event where we'd have 2 perfect changes. But I think poor old Dallas he gets himself into a bit of a frenzy. So the biggest lesson I learned is that we can't ever really practice the flying changes of where they're going to be in the test. We've got to sort of keep doing them at different spots around the arena, so that Dallas doesn't anticipate them. If you remember last year at Tryon 4-star short, the same thing happened. Now, the big mistake that we had at Bruce's Field, if you remember, was the trot transition here at C, and the debacle we had there a couple of weeks ago in Aiken was he misunderstood the trot transition for the canter transition. So we'd been practicing at C trot, and it wasn't perfect, but it was way better. What we've been doing is starting in quite a short trot, and then the hardest part, it's actually a tricky move to go from walk to trot, just because the horses are thinking canter, and on top of that, you got a sort of shoulder in left and a half pass left, which is similar leg aids to the canter left. So anyway, obviously with our hiccup in the both flying changes, our score was sadly abysmal. Now we got a 37.4, so the judge at C had us at a 63, and the judge on the side had us at 61%. Just looking down his scores, like all the first canter work was 7s and a halves and 7s, and then we went to a 3 and a 2, and then same with the other judge. They had us in all the canter work. They really wanted to give us good scores, and then obviously after a mishap, the judges sort of go back down to a 6.5. And then we actually finished the test quite strongly with nearly everything you're seeing here was 7s and 7.5. So I was a bit deflated after the test, just because we've been working so hard on him, and in my heart of hearts, I really thought this was going to be the one that knocked the ball out of the park. But he's a sort of tricky horse, because I think he sort of gets himself a bit worried, especially at the competition of the flying changes. So I think I sort of talked with Silver. We're going to find some dressage shows and do just a mixture of dressage tests, USDF tests, where that just every time we do a test, the flying changes in a slightly different position. Okay, we redeemed ourselves wonderfully the next day. This was obviously the show jumping. Peter Wild flew in and gave me a hand, and this was as challenging show jumping track as we've seen, and on top of that, the time was unbelievably tight. So we sort of had to negotiate this pretty careful, spooky course and zip along. And if you look at Dallas's back end here, he's just jumping as high as ever, which is, I think the show jumping with me and Dallas has really clicked now. And he's, he didn't even touch one in the warm-up, and sometimes he'd give you a little bit of a stally sort of sticky jump in the warm-up, and now I feel like we're on the same page. And like I said, it was a really big field. There's probably 40 horses in the class, and clear show jumping round was very tough, and then under the time was even harder, and there was only a handful of horses that got clear jumping and clear on the time. So we were seriously happy with Dallas there. He is becoming such a legend in the show jumping. Got the hang of him. Cross country is good. I'd say Philip said this about his horses too. The horses were a little bit sort of buzzed up, or the Brucersfield cross country, which he was extraordinary in, sometimes sort of rattles them a bit. I'd say Dallas had a great cross country round. We have one blip at the end of the video here, you'll see, but I mean, it was a real four-star track. It was a Derek DeGrazio track, and the thing with Dallas, he's got a massive stride. This was supposed to be 4 strides, and 1, 2, 3, and we just fit the 4th one in. So he's got this big, long gallop stride, which is actually it's bloody handy, but when it's tight distances or a combination, when he jumps in massive, he's got such a big scopy jump and a long stride. I feel like this is going to actually be an advantage once we get to 5-star. When the horses have a short, choppy counter strider, that's worse. Like when you got to chase them to get across the distances between 2 jumps. So, Dallas was one of the early horses of the field to go, and like this double of corners, I felt like he did really well. It was an outside 5 strides. Peter was there for the day before for the show jumping, so I walked the cross-country course a couple of times with Peter. And one thing with Dallas, he's got this ability to take strides out. Our original plan was to go from this next fence, the white oxer, to the rails in an outside 6 strides, and we went a little bit on the inside track here and got 5 strides. And he does it very well. The water jump coming up this is one of the most challenging fences on the course. It was a big jump and then a big long 4 strides down to a wicked corner, and Dallas flew over it well. Unfortunately, at the end of the course here, we had a flag, and it was completely my fault. I screwed up the line. It was supposed to be an outside 5 strides, and we ended up there on a 5.5, and I whacked the flag out. So anyway, guys, it was a great event. On paper, there's still some room for improvement, but we're in great shape, and we're going to run him again in the 4-star short in Fair Hill in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. But we're in great shape. Great shape. Coroner had to adjust his line.